The following is a presentation of iRacing.com motorsport simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Live tonight from Fontana, California. Real sim racing action moves on from the Daytona High Banks and takes a drive west to the 2-mile D-shaped oval of the Auto Club Speedway for race number 2 on the season for the California 90. Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to LSRTV's continuing coverage of the 2016-2017 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series on iRacing Live. Topside with you tonight, as always, myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside it with Chris Murdoch at the LSRTV booth downstairs, the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza pushing the buttons and bringing us to you here this evening. Still in the infancy of this championship, Chris, but we do move on from Daytona, and now we're officially into things as we go into just this second week of 10 races of total action that we'll have before this championship comes to a close. But tonight, interesting because we are going to go to Michigan a little bit later on in the year. These two tracks very similar in how they look. Depending on how you ask the drivers, I guess you could argue, though, that they drive very differently. But under the lights tonight at the Auto Club Speedway for 180 miles of action. Should be a fun one. Right now, the drivers just wrapping up their final minute and a half of qualifying before we get this one underway.
Yeah, definitely.
The following is a presentation of iRacing.com motorsport simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
We'll take a look trackside at tonight's starting lineup for the California 90 as we get set for 180 miles of action tonight from Fontana, California. How about Brian Backlund? Trying to make up for what looked like a good race as of 1 week ago, but he ended up on the trailer in the final quarter distance of that one. The 03 Toyota will start on pole position tonight at 39.392. Going to put him on pole. He'll be joined on the front row by the number 30 of Raul Alves. Jeff Ward and Shane Ewing going to be back on row number 2. They start in 3rd and 4th respectively. And the number 40 Monster Energy Chevrolet, David Comstock, rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, and in 6th, Tim Matthews in that 54 machine. 7th, Bobby Terrell. Bobby Wetzel comes home 8th. Got a whole lot of Bobby right there. EJ O'Rourke is in 9th. And rounding out your top 10, that 8 car of Chad Cole.
Harold Campbell going to be 11 tonight. He's joined by the number 1 of Jeremy Bazemore alongside in the number 12 spot. Unlucky number 13 position tonight is Kevin Linden's Laurel Lawson, who was number 1 in practice. Will start 14th position, and your winner from 1 week ago from Daytona Beach, the U.S. Coast Guard Chevrolet, Michael Waters, is 15th.
In 16th, that 75 of Joe Hudson Scott Brotherton. 17th, Kyle Taraska in that 88 machine is 18th. 19th, our in-race reporter Dwayne Vincent, and rounding out your top 20 is Jose Gonzalez.
The LSRTV 4 to William Hale is 21st, John Abbott 22nd, Josh Cheney 23rd, Scott Simley to his right-hand side in 24th, and 25th position is Alan Rowell.
26, Justin Lisenby, Mike Kelly, 27th, 28, Eric Arnold, Scott Simley, 29th, Joey Gattina will round out your top 30.
Guys, just outside of the top 30, P31 for Doug Roth, Jeffrey Ford is 32nd, Steve Bavacqua 33rd, John Fowler 34th, and the final 2 drivers to qualify a time tonight, 35th, Jeff Faviano and Jared Trees in 36th.
Mike Franklin, your last driver, not taking time. He's 37th. Ronnie Potts, 38th. Michael Priester, 39th. Eric Shear, 40th. 41st, Douglas Wise. Keith Brooks Jr., 42nd. And rounding out your field is David Gatone. Evan, this is an interesting track as we're getting ready to take the green flag here. What are you most looking forward to out of this race tonight?
The 2-mile D-shaped oval, it's faster than the racetrack that we were at 1 week ago from Daytona International Speedway. Again, the lights are on tonight. It is a little bit of a cooler track condition down there at 14 degrees of banking. These guys should be able to zip these cars around, but it appears like they're going to be dealing with some tight conditions. We'll see how that plays into a factor as the night goes on. Your pole sitter, Brian Backlund, though, already on the gas. American Ethanol green flag waves and underway for the California 90. The second race on this RSR Icebreaker Winter Series campaign is green. Off to turn number 1 they go for the first time. Macklin, after being able to bring us to the green flag in that control car position, he'll lead the battle out of turn number 2. Plenty of 2 wide behind him.
Yeah, definitely Macklin off to a great start there. Jeff Ward in that 31 machine wasn't wasting any time. He got around that 30 machine of Raul Alves real quick, and he's already on the back bumper of that 03 machine, looking to maybe go to the outside here off the corner. No, Brian Macklin going to come up in front of him. He's going to go even higher, going to take that outside line from the 03 as Brian Macklin leads the first lap here at Auto Club.
You don't typically want to intentionally put yourself on the outside, but that's exactly the line that Jeff Ward is going to try to take to get around Macklin. But as you noted, 03 was in front after the first 2 miles of this race, so Brian Macklin secures himself a bonus point for leading a lap tonight. He just about cleared the 31 off at a quarter, and actually, normally the outside is the place to get the run, but Macklin a lot stronger down the back straightaway, and he clears Jeff Ward off to turn number 3. In fact, the 31 on the defensive because here comes Raul Alves. Started P2 on the outside of the front row. Jeff Ward took that spot away from him right off of the swing of the bat. He's coming back at him on the inside at a challenge for P2.
And it allowed a lot of those with that 2-wide battle between Jeff Ward and Brian Macklin. It allowed most of the drivers to catch back up. You see Raul Alves on the inside of that 31 machine trying to get that position that he lost back. And then you got the 40 car of David Comstock just riding his time. He's going to go to the outside of that 30 machine, maybe try to use that outside and use that draft to your advantage, because draft is still a big factor in tracks like this just as much as it was at Daytona.
Two wide, 2 rows deep in a battle for the top spot. Looks like Jeff Ward's going to be able to maybe get the job done this time up on the outside. He'll have the nose at the start-finish line. Jeff Ward, new race leader, the 31, after 3 laps. A contest from Fontana, but he has not yet cleared. Dive it off into 1, and he's got it. Ward is able to discard the 03 of Brian Backlund, take sole possession of the number 1 position. Now, though, for the 03, it's not as simple as just dropping back in line P2 and trying to catch back up. He could go all the way to 4th in this, but the caution going to come out before anybody else is able to make a move on him. A couple of guys jumped up towards the back of the pack. Here in the 44, John Fowler is one of them.
Yeah, definitely the 44 of John Fowler's got some heavy damage on that back end of the car. We're going to bring you a replay here shortly just to see what happened here, but not good. Only on lap about 4, I think.
This is the 28 of Douglas Wyatt as you take a second look on the LSRTV replay. Just got those left side tires a little bit too low. I was talking about a tight condition. You want to get as much of an arc as you can. The apron will loosen the car up, but it'll loosen it up a little bit too much. And Douglas Wyatt, all kinds of out of shape. He actually did a really good job of hanging on to that car. The issue was he lost so much time and pushed up the hill a little bit that the driver that was behind him took a step up the hill. He tagged Fowler, and that's how the 44 ended up spinning up to the top of the racetrack. And with that caution flag out, as you noted early on in this one, just 4 laps complete as we catch back up to the pace car.
Yeah, and that's something we gotta pay attention to, is all these drivers just trying to get a lot out of the runs on the straightaways. They're going to try to dive it down in the corners, and with this, you know, the climate out here tonight is not going to work. You got these tight cars that, you know, should be pretty simple to drive around the track, but if you get in there too hard, the cars are just going to get really tight, push up the track, and as you saw there, just an unfortunate incident for the 44 and the 28. So hopefully they get back into it, and hopefully they get most of their damage fixed, but, you know, unfortunate. So that's always going to be something we're going to watch here at Auto Club.
Interesting pit strategy on that one. Jeff Ward got snookered by Raul Alves. It as well looked like Brian Backlund jumped out from behind him at the last second. Shane Ewing, though, 5th odd back to bring company. Terrell, Matthews, O'Rourke, Wetzel, Cole through the top 10 coming down to the pit lane. But it looks like that the drivers who are going to go to the top spots, Raul Alves, as well with David Comstock staying out on top of Brian Backlund. Those 3 drivers are the only 3 on the lead lap. Did not come down pit road. So for those who did come down pit road, Jeff Ward led them down, but he is going to go with 4 tires and lose tons of time on the racetrack. Everybody else who beats him out of the pit lane, Jose Gonzalez, Laura Lawson, Kyle Tarasca, Tim Matthews, Bobby Wetzel, and EJ O'Rourke went with 2 tires, Chris. So not only does he lose a little bit of time, and rather positions, for coming down to the pit lane in the first place, but he goes with 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. Everybody else practically inside the top 10 decided 2 was the call, and the guy who was up front may be outside the top 10 by the time we go back green.
Yeah, and this is going to be our first test of the tires here tonight. You know, we got people on no tires, Brian Macklin, Alvis, Comstock, and then you got the people who are on 2 tires. You know, you mentioned the 41, EJ, they all came down. So, you know, taking 4, 2, 0, especially this early on. I mean, we had that caution come out on lap 4. So I'm going to look for, you know, the 2 tire guys to be up there towards the front, maybe get around the no tire guys, but the 4 tire guys are definitely going to be able to last a lot longer, especially with how these cars handle here. Fresh tires are always going to be key, so I don't think it was a bad strategy called by that driver at all.
We'll see if the lights go out on top of the pace car this time. It'll give us an idea of how quick this race is going to go back into rain flying conditions. Lights stay on top, so you got at least 2 more times around before they do go back green. And Jeff Ward just inside of the top 10, as you were talking about. He'll be to the inside of row 5. If those tires are of a great benefit, then sure, if he gets handful of green flag laps, he might be able to do something with it. I guess the biggest concern for him, outside of the fact that, you know, the tires just don't give him any benefit at all, could be a factor in the fact that if you look at, you know, if we get very short stints, green for a little bit, yellow, green for a little bit of caution, and then eventually everybody comes back down to the pit lane, and he didn't even get a chance under green flag conditions to make up any time. That could be, I think, really the way that this could go downhill for Jeff Ward. Ninth, though, not all that bad when you consider we had 42 drivers start this race, 40 of which still scored on the lead lap. A couple of the guys involved in that skirmish at 1 and 2 are drivers that fall off of the lead lap. John Fowler, who was up into the outside fence, he's now a lap down. He's on the pit lane servicing that machine. Joe Hudson was also involved in that accident. The 75's night, though, is already done. He has pulled it behind the wall. He's no longer in the session, so his night not going to go quite the way that he had intended it to. Lights on top of the pace car should go out this time. Brian Backlund going to get another opportunity to bring us back to the green flag as he did the first time, and he got a good jump. I don't think we can really fault him on that one, Chris, but the 03 machine needs to try to get a little bit further away from those guys behind him because this is a high-speed track, as I noted. The draft is quite prevalent here, and if that guy's anywhere between 3 to 4 car lengths off of the back bumper, he'll be able to suck right up to you, and I think that's how we saw Jeff Ward so easily get around him that first try.
Yeah, definitely. And, you also got to think about the outside line. We don't see a lot of people run that outside line too much here. You see it's just a single groove, half a groove track. So it's going to be interesting to see because, even though he did get that jump, we saw, the 31 of Jeff Ward, he elected to go on that high side, something we thought wouldn't really work out here tonight. You thought, the 03 of Brian Macklin you get that run off the corner, but it seems like that high side is faring people well, so you can't just hold that white line and hope for the best and get the run off the corner. You also got to protect anywhere else on the track where these drivers might be experimenting to get that run.
Alvis going to be on the front row with him. It's going to be the exact front row that we started this race with, which will be about 8 laps ago. Once we do get this race back underway, Alvis dropped back, though, from second to third on the restart because the driver on the inside of row 2 in third position was able to get a better jump than him. That position is occupied by David Comstock for this restart, so we'll take a look and see just how good that 40 Chevrolet is when this one comes back around. He's joined by E.J. O'Rourke, Bobby Wetzel, also the names inside of the top 5, and you can continue to get a look top to bottom as far as where everybody's running in the field here tonight at the top of the screen as you take a look at the live standings. With 8 laps complete, though, we're going to go back under green flag racing conditions. First restart on the night, Brian Backlund. Second time, he will bring us at a turn number 4 through the gears and up to speed. The base car makes the sharp left-hand turn down and away. Macklin holds it back a little bit longer, but he puts the right foot down. American Ethanol green flag flies back underway, and Alvis a little bit close to the right rear quarter panel as he now has to try to hold off that charging car from third. Comstock to the bottom for second.
Yeah, and we had a little bit of 3 wide on that start there. We had the 88 of Kyle Taraska go under the white line on that start, which is perfectly legal here at a track like Auto Club. You can use the whole width of this track to your advantage. That is exactly what that 88 of Kyle Taraska did. He's now right on the back bumper of that 41 of E.J. O'Rourke, and he's not looking to start now. But if you look here, we got a battle for second. That's Raul Alvis and David Comstock. They're side by side for second as it allows David Comstock to get way high up on the wall. Everybody else is going to file on by, and E.J. O'Rourke is going to jump out to the outside of that 30 car now.
He tried to go to the bottom, and Alvis shut the door all the way down to the grass. So the 41 tried the alternate route to go top, and he's going to force the issue. Contact for the top spot. Brian Macklin turned in corner number 2, and the field is going to pile in behind these guys. Caution flag is out. And we knew that the 30 machine was going to be dicey on that one. He put the block on the 41. We saw it coming across the front straightaway. And then he made a move to the inside on Brian Macklin. And the 03 tried to protect. And those two ended up making contact and going around. The 30 able to drive away. Not as good news for Brian Macklin. The driver who was leading this race is heavily damaged.
Yeah, just when I thought, Brian Macklin had it saved down there below the white line, there was a car that got spun on his outside, that 32 machine getting turned around right into him and just nailing him. So heavy damage for that 03 car. Unfortunate. Just when you think you can make it through a wreck, just somebody comes out of nowhere and slams you.
And on board with him, he didn't even see it. Just such a tough break. He thought he was clear, and as the wrecks continued to kind of cascade down the racetrack, he was just really in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that this, the incident, you take a look at the contact on the LSRTV replay. This one can kind of go back, if you want, to a Carl Edwards, Joey Logano syndrome, if you will. It's two guys going for one piece of real estate, and I said we knew the 30 machine, was going to be aggressive because he made that big block off of the corner on O'Rourke. And then Brian Macklin, I think, really wasn't trying to offer up the inside lane. He just went high to make it arc into the corner, and the 30 just held the white line all the way, and it wasn't going to lift for any reason. And the contact comes out of turn number 2, and the drivers, a couple of them who were behind that first bit of contact, Chris, they got involved in this one, are sharing their opinions over the radio, displeased with how that one worked out.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of unhappy drivers, a lot of people, wanting some answers out of that wreck, because that was a really big wreck. As you see, a lot of people driving down pit road. Now you got the 88 of Kyle Tarasca and a whole host of other drivers who were involved in that wreck. But that kind of benefited from that and got all the way up to the front. That 25 of Laura Lawson, she was 3 laps down. She was able to make it through that wreck. She's right behind these leaders, maybe looking for just not going to get the wave around this time, but very lucky for her to keep her car intact and, not get involved in that big mess there on the back straightaway.
Not sure if we can get it on board with the 88 on that incident, but Kyle Tarasco was right behind that all. He was in 4th at the time. And, had a front row seat of the accident. He ended up getting involved in that when he hit the spinning 03 of Brian Macklin. He's one of the drivers who's not happy at the moment with Raul Alves, and those two drivers having a little bit of a back and forth on the radio. Things getting testy. We're only at lap number 12 of 90 on the night, and regardless of any of that, it's just kind of disappointing, Chris, in a general sense, to see anybody running 1-2 and make contact with each other. But at the same time, I noted on qualifying grid, we're going to get that look right now actually on board with Tarasca, and you'll see his view in line behind the 30, and you can see from his perspective, it looks like the 30 kept trying to stay to the inside of Macklin's machine, and kind of, at least from that view, I think made it look more so like Alves was just trying to get to the inside of him through the corner, as opposed to, if you get a different angle, you could argue that it was Macklin who came down. But nonetheless, Tarasca not happy because he was involved in that one. But back to the point about Brian Macklin, Chris started on pole. He was leading at Daytona 1 week ago, 3/4 of the way through, and then got wrecked out. So that's 2 weeks Brian Macklin has had a race-winning car, albeit we were just 10 laps into this one, but things were looking good so far, and it's ended up on the hook.
Yeah, and we looked like between the 03 of Brian Macklin and the 30 of Alves, we said it looked like Brian Macklin came down, but Raul Alves took the blame for that wreck. He was given an EOL penalty, and he will now start all the way back at the back. So unfortunate for that 30 car, looking to see him race back up to the field. When you're racing for that bit of real estate, that close together, it's hard to put blame on somebody like that. And, Raul Alves said, I don't think I should take blame for it, but if you want me to take blame for it, I will. So he went to the back of the line, starting in the back now as we restart this race back up again.
Take a look to see if the lights go back off on top of the pace car this time. Coming out of turn number 4. 2 yellows, though, early on in this California 90. And self-explanatory, 90 laps, 180 miles of action before this one wraps up. Currently working under the caution flag at just lap number 13. So plenty of ways to go. Auto Club is a track, though, that despite how wide it is, and you would think that it would give everybody a lot of space, and sure it does, but things surprisingly tighten up in the corners here. When we get 10 laps of green under our belts as the lights go off, this is a racetrack that can lend to a lot of green flag racing because it is wide, because it is a long track. Guys like to spread out. But kind of tied in with all of that is, Chris, the width on the racetrack that helps you on a long run is kind of what bites you on a short run, because there's so many different ways for somebody to at least attempt to make an attack on you for position that's why we see these restarts always so chippy.
Yeah, definitely. And now with only 14 laps into this race, now we got to add the tempers of everybody after 2 cautions. Everybody getting getting very heated here in this race. I see people in the chats asking for explanation and asking what happened and why this is happening so early on, why people are racing so hard. So now you got to add the temper of these drivers to the aspect of this race, and just see how much it amplifies here from here on out, moving forward.
We'll take a look to see how we do this one. First restart tonight that Brian Backlund is not going to be in control of. The drivers inside of the top 10 now, only 2 of them started inside of the top 10. That's EJ O'Rourke, P1, who started 9th, and Chad Cole in 3rd, who started in 10th. You've got people who started as deep as 33rd, though, now inside the top 10 after the last 2 cautions, combined with a little bit of pit strategy, has completely inverted the running order early on here tonight for the Auto Club Speedway. The pace car down and away. EJ O'Rourke holds it back a lot longer all the way to the exit of the restart box, but green flag flies are back underway.
And Bazemore not getting the start that he wanted. He had to rely on that 42 machine of Scott Stenzel to get on his back bumper to at least stay on the outside of Chad Cole. Chad Cole going to be on the inside of Jeremy Bazemore, going in, going to make it look easy coming out of the corner here, going to clear him off at 2. Now he's got his sight sets on that 41 machine of EJ O'Rourke, as we got Doug Roth in that 43 car. He's making a pass on that on Scott Stenzel, looking to maybe make a move on Jeremy Bazemore. This time Bazemore gets in front of him before he can get there. So a whole lot of drivers that we haven't really seen a lot of today. I mean, it's still early, but a lot of drivers coming forward after that big wreck.
Yeah, for Doug Roth in specific, anytime you can start at 31st and you can be 4th after 15 laps, you'll take it. The 43 was able to get that spot with a move on the 42 of Scott Stenzel. Mike Kelly also going to join the party. He comes up the inside of the 42 Ford. It also gets around Stenzel to take over P5. So it drops the 42 back 2 spots off for the restart alone. Now in P6, we've got names like John Abbott, Scott Simley, Jeffrey Ford, Kyle Taraska inside of the top 10 at the moment. Could we see a battle for the race lead, though? EJ O'Rourke got a good jump, but the guys in the number 2 and 3 spots close it in on him very quickly here. Chad Cole, Jeremy Bazemore off of the bumper. Looks like a 3-way fight for the top spot.
And Chad Cole is on rails right now. Jeremy Bazemore forfeiting that position to that 8 car just 1 lap ago, now on the back bumper of EJ O'Rourke. So Chad Cole coming to life here, only 17 laps into this race. Very interesting to see. He'll be on the back bumper of EJ O'Rourke going into this corner, as he's pulled a little bit on Jeremy Bazemore. Going to be interesting to see what he does this corner. Going to hold back a little bit, not try anything too much. Like we mentioned before, these cars are so tight around this track, you can't afford to dive it on in there, because the car will push up, and that could end your night real fast, along with a lot of other people.
Also, these guys get really tight to the fence because of it, often 2 and often 4. Haven't seen a lot of it, but as an example, EJ O'Rourke got awfully close just 2 times by. You saw him duck way down half of the racetrack, trying to get that car back under control. So it happens to the best of them. Those top 3, though, well, still a little bit tight on each other compared to what you typically see throughout the field, and you can almost try to say the top 3 are trying to pull away with this one. Doug Roth and Mike Kelly keeping it interesting. The top 5 have opened up a little bit of a gap back to everybody else, but at the moment, no immediate fighting amongst those positions. There is a battle a little bit further back with the 10 of John Abbott. He was 7th the last time by. He'll be in either 8th or 9th position, because Scott Simley was able to get around him on the bottom, and now the 40 of David Comstock cut up the inside. He'll take that spot away as well, and both those guys, they're going to drop kick that 10 back to P9.
And Comstock's not done there. He was looking on the inside of Scott Simley, but not able to get there this time. You also got the 54 of Tim Matthews making his way up to that 10 machine. So maybe the 10 is kind of saving a little bit of tires, just letting these guys go by. But you can't afford to lose too many positions here at Auto Club, because before you know it, you could find yourself back in 20th position, fighting to stay alive here.
Looks like the 68 is Simley going to try to put a move on Stenzel. The 42 hasn't had that fun of a restart since that point. He's dropped 2 spots, now make it 3, as Simley on the bottom of the racetrack is able to take it away. And based on how well David Comstock has been all night long, we expect the 40 to be fast regardless, but put him back in a little bit of traffic, and he's a top 5 car at least, expecting maybe Stenzel to be forced to drop another spot. You see the 40 go right to the back bumper, and those 2 aren't going to be able to take that spot away. in this battle. That's hanging on just inside of the top 10. Stenzel's got to be careful, though. If he stays too high up, you've got a big line of cars. Abbott, Matthews, Cheney, Taraska, and company, who I'm sure would love to take a wide open lane on the inside to get around him. So he's got to find a spot in line soon.
Yeah, and if we jump up here forward to our lead a little bit, you see EJ O'Rourke, who is just pulled away from these drivers about half a second now. You know, Chad Cole has backed up to Jeremy Bazemore, and then you got Doug Roth on the back bumper of Jeremy Bazemore. So this battle for second could also be heating up here soon. But EJ O'Rourke looking to extend his gap and hoping that these guys battle just to give him a little bit more of a cushion, as it's shaping up to be a green flag run here.
You could still see the rest of the group. I actually find this interesting down the front stretch. Chad Cole, Jeremy Bazemore, Doug Roth, the guys up front, 2, 3, and 4 on track. They are the guys who went down to the apron as we came by the start-finish line, and EJ O'Rourke did not. He elected to just stay up on the right-hand side all the way up against the fence, and it actually allowed Chad Cole to close in a significant amount of time. So we'll see if he continues to do so. I know that at most tracks, the race leader might just go down to the bottom, not necessarily go all the way to the apron. It's a little bit of a rougher place to go to, and normally if you're chasing somebody down, you're willing to kind of take that as a sacrifice to try to get it a little bit here and there. But O'Rourke, you see, he learned from it this time, right down to the bottom. He lost half of his gap. He had 0.5 of a second the last time by. That time now just 0.3, so he's going to have to keep it low on the racetrack, or Chad Cole's going to keep picking away.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what I like about this track and, you know, the new dynamic track model. There are so many different ways around each track that you can find speed, and we saw it there, you know, going down all the way almost to the grass on the front stretch. It was it allowed them to make up a lot of time on that 41 machine, and you saw the last lap by EJ O'Rourke learned from his mistakes, as you mentioned, and was down on low on that racetrack. It's not going to seem too well here, as Chad Cole is now making his way all the way to the back bumper of that 41 machine. We could see a battle for the lead shaping up real quick here, I think.
Yeah, just as we were talking about O'Rourke getting away, these guys are back on him, and it's spearheaded by Chad Cole. That's not at all surprising. Chad Cole is the all-time winningest real sim racing driver. The next closest driver, Dwayne Vincent, with 37 wins, which is a monumental number. But Chad Cole himself, 69 career real sim racing race wins. He might be able to hunt for number 70 here tonight. O'Rourke's going to have to hold him off, though. The top two may dance in a couple of laps here. So far, though, still a little bit of a gap. Behind these guys, still falling backwards, is Scott Stenzel. He just lost the position to Tim Matthews, and Josh Cheney was able to make a move on him. Bobby Wetzel also going to go up the bottom. At 42 is Scott Stenzel, 42nd in practice and 24th in qualifying. Doesn't have exceptional speed, and I'm sure being able to stay out on a cycle to service there earlier on one of those yellows to get inside the top 10 is still going to help him, because now when you get outside the top 10, the gaps between cars is much bigger. But a tough break for him, losing about 6 positions.
Yeah, definitely a tough break. It just shows how fast this track can eat you up around here. If we go back, you see John Abbott, he's been able to, you know, hold with these guys up here. You saw him drop 2 positions to David Comstock and Scott Simley. He hasn't dropped anymore. He's able to stay right on the back bumper. So just when we thought that, you know, John Abbott was getting dropped, kicked to the back of the field, he shows a new sign of life here. If we go back to the front, you know, EJ O'Rourke and Chad Cole have stayed pretty consistent, haven't really gained, haven't really lost since Chad's got within that 3/10 gap. So it's where the tires start to even out and everybody starts to get in the mood for a long run and, you know, just start to take it easy.
34 drivers on the lead lap at this moment. You got to look all the way from the top to the bottom. John Fowler is the final driver on the lead lap. After that, car in Lucky Dog position right now. The 25 Laura Lawson, however, she is 3 laps down, so one wave by wouldn't necessarily get her immediately back into the conversation. Still a ways to go until she's able to get to that point. Cole, though, to the back bumper. It is a battle for the race lead at lap number 27 at the Auto Club Speedway. Looks high off to the quarter, and just traced the bumper this time through. Looking for him to try to get close to the bumper again. The draft is a big thing that helps him go from that 3 or 4 car length of gap right up to the back bumper. But it is very difficult to pass somebody at a track like this. Look for him to maybe look to the inside if O'Rourke opens it up.
Yeah, there's only about 2 grooves you can really use here to pass at this track. You mentioned that this track is really wide, but to find speed, you have to use one or two grooves. It's, that white line as you see them both running here, or just a groove up in that second lane that we saw Raul Alves and Jeff Ward use earlier on Brian Macklin. They were able to get around him. So, as wide as this track is, there's only one real way to find speed, and you'll see that here as Chad Cole, getting down later than EJ O'Rourke. He's apexing the corners just a little bit later, so finding speed. He's going to jump maybe to the outside. No, he's going to stay right in behind that 41 of EJ O'Rourke this time by.
If these guys fight for a couple of laps, Jeremy Bazemore might be able to join the party, even Doug Roth, who's just 0.7 of a second off now. But this is a track that, despite how exciting the restarts are, is pretty difficult to pass at under green flag conditions if you have relatively equal cars. Also going to mention, this time by, we're going to be at lap number 30 already, at 1/3 distance in the California 90. So after those two early yellow flags, things have picked up quite quickly here, and not all that far away of having to start to think about pit service, especially when you talk about the fact that some guys have come down pit road once, if not twice already tonight, and some guys haven't at all.
Yeah, definitely. We saw earlier, 2-tire, 4-tire stops. You're going to see a lot of 4-tire stops from here on out, making sure you get as much as you can out of these cars in the green flag run that you have possible. EJ O'Rourke and Chad Cole doing that right now, as you still see a battle shaping up here. Chad Cole still on the back bumper of EJ O'Rourke. They haven't really battled much. That allowed the 43 of Doug Roth and the 40 of David Comstock. David Comstock, he started 5th. He's now found his way up to that 4th position and looking to make a move on the 43 of Doug Roth. Jeremy Bazemore, don't know really what happened to him, but he's fallen off real quick here, and Doug Roth making his way back up to the front.
Yeah, he was caught very quickly by that 43 of Doug Roth. Ross was able to go to the inside to make the move on him, and I think Bazemore just lost a lot of momentum in one lap, and next thing you know, these guys weren't playing around. They got right around him. But also, I noted David Comstock was quick. He started outside of the top 10 on the restart. He's been able to charge his way all the way to 3rd now after just completing a pass on Doug Roth for that 3rd position. You see those guys now about 1 second flat off the back end. Comstock, last time around, fastest driver on the racetrack. Not sure if he's going to be able to catch the 41 and the 8, though, because they do have that second of padding.
And definitely, and with that second of padding, they're going to be able to use that advantage as they come to pit stops. It's going to be really interesting to me who comes down pit road first. As you mentioned earlier, the pit stops are just on the horizon here at Auto Club Speedway. It's going to be interesting to see who pits coming up. So, we're 1/3 of the way through. It would be kind of good for most of the drivers who only came down pit road maybe once to come in and pit now and kind of just divvied up in a 2-stop kind of way. But it's just going to be interesting to see which one pulls all these drivers down first.
Side by side for the race lead we go, just as David Comstock looms in the background. Chad Cole is going to go to the inside. Side by side off to turn 1. At the start-finish line, O'Rourke had it by 7/1000ths, but that is not going to last. He sticks the hand out the window net, waves him on by, and lets him go. New race leader, lap number 33, Chad Cole.
Yeah, and that's allowed David Comstock to make up a lot of ground. He's probably going to be on the inside. As you see, EJ O'Rourke peek to the inside, not going to make the move here, just giving way to that 8 car of Chad Cole. Almost made the move going into 3, so that moves David Comstock right on the back bumper of EJ O'Rourke. Comstock has been on rails. You mentioned he is the fastest car on the racetrack at the moment. Not really making a move going down the front stretch here, but maybe making a move going into turn 1 here. No, he's just going to stay right on the back bumper of EJ O'Rourke. So the 40 of Comstock's here now, Evan.
Yeah, he's a part of the party, and also don't forget, Doug Roth is still there, 0.7 of a second off. He's not as quick as Comstock is at the moment. You see EJ O'Rourke move to the inside and let the 40 go down the back straightaway, but Doug Roth has a car that if he gets to the back bumper, the 41 could be inside the top 3 for the first time tonight after starting in 31st position. But Chad Cole caught and passed your at-time race leader EJ O'Rourke. And now we see if David Comstock can do the same. He's closed into the back bumper 0.2 off.
Again, he was one of those drivers that came down pit road after that last caution, got 4 fresh tires, started outside of the top 10. You see how much tires make a difference here. He's now on the back bumper of Chad Cole. EJ O'Rourke playing it smart here, knowing that it's still early on this race. You know, 1/3 of the distance through, he knew not to race the faster car and just let him go. Now Comstock's on the inside of the 8. No battle there from the 8 car. Gonna let that 40 go by and just, you know, ride behind the David Comstock through the rest of the laps.
He was in 13th on the restart, and he's now in P2 and battling for the number 1 position, and he got it. So David Comstock in the 40. Impressive stuff. We'll find out just how much of that is car, because now, if he's good in traffic, and I mean exceptionally well on this run, and that car should be even quicker now that he's got clean air in front of him. There is a little bit of lap traffic just on the horizon. That is 33rd position, John Fowler. We noted a couple laps ago that he was the last driver scored on the lead lap. No longer. He falls 1 lap down, and he's really the only lap traffic these guys have to deal with at the moment, because a lap around this place is 41 seconds. The next driver on the lead lap, 32nd, is Kyle Taraska. He is still within 20 seconds of these guys, so technically he's still a half a racetrack behind him, half a racetrack still away from being lapped. So Comstock, wide open racetrack, trying to see if he could get away. Chad Cole's really trying to work the draft, following the 40 all the way through the corner so he can't pull away, and he's doing a pretty good job at it, but Comstock might just be 2-3 laps away from breaking away. Let's see what the 8 can do.
Yeah, and just outside of the top 10, we have 4 wide down the backstretch here. John Abbott backs out Raul Alves. We mentioned him in the last caution. He got an EOO penalty. He makes it 3 wide for 10th, so you can't leave any of these drivers out of it. Raul Alves making his way back up to the front as well, just like David Comstock did, so he's not going to get it done this run. I think green flag pit stops are going to come way before he can make a way back up to the front, but gain a whole lot of positions. He started about 31st on that restart, so it's going to be interesting to see how these next few laps come back. As you see the 45 get right on the back bumper, slide up, lose a lot of momentum. That's going to allow the 2 of Mike Kelly to get right back on, but Raul Alves is making his way up through the field pretty quick here, Evan.
Yeah, and again, Alves involved in that contact up at the number 1 position. He got the better end of that deal than Brian Backlund did. Brian Backlund is 11 laps down in 36th position, and even on a good night, might get inside the top 30 if a lot of guys have problems, but I mean, Raul Alves was able to drive away with that one, and also went back in traffic after he came down to the pit lane, accepted an EOL penalty with some reluctancy. He's done a great job as well, driving through the pack to get to that P8 position where he sits right now, and at least at this moment looks a little bit quicker than the likes of Bobby Wetzel, Tim Matthews in front of him, so we'll see if he's able to catch up to them. Speaking of Tim Matthews, Matthews going to go +1 on lap number 39. He goes to the inside of Jeremy Bazemore. They swap out 5th and 6th.
Yeah, battles all around here late in this race. Everybody trying to get as many positions, as they can, and just be able to go into pit road feeling good. As you see, Chad Cole and David Comstock still haven't let up on each other. They're still side by side. You know, Doug Roth falling off over a second and a half now, and EJ Rourke going to come right back on the 43's back bumper. Tim Matthews comes up and passes Jeremy Bazemore, like you mentioned. So everybody just trying to make their final passes before they set up for pit stops here, now that we're on lap 40.
And again, these guys coming through the field have the tire advantage. And we noted that when we saw these guys do pit road, that the best thing that they could have done is have green flag laps to be able to make up positions. So not only are they better at this moment on track, they can go longer on fuel than those who have not come down to the pit lane yet and stayed out at least, if not through the first 2 stops entirely, pitted on that first caution flag as opposed to the second one. Might give about a 6 or 7 lap difference on fuel, depending on if they did come down and top it off at that moment. But we are seeing Chad Cole, I will say, do an impressive job, Chris, to stick it on the back bumper of David Comstock. He's been right there at about 2/10 off, and all while we know Comstock's quick because he just blew everybody else out of the water, Doug Roth was able to get that 3rd position away from EJ O'Rourke, as we thought might happen. So O'Rourke now from at one point the race lead to 4th position on track, but they're 2 seconds behind. So Comstock is moving, and Chad Cole's keeping him honest.
Yeah, that car, that 8 car, I should say, came to life once he had the lead taken from him. So he knows that being up there towards the front is important, and minimizing the time into pit road as much as you can. Raul Alves is still looming in the distance now, 4 seconds back. He's battling that 45 and a whole host of other drivers. He's now up to that 7th place position, getting his final stops in as the 45's in the wall. Josh Chaney, that's going to bring out the caution and spoil everything as another driver, that 55 of Michael Waters, piles into the back of him.
Waters isn't going to make it 2 for 2. Your winner from 1 week ago absolutely plows into the back end of Josh Chaney as the caution comes out just 3 laps in front of getting to the halfway point. And Josh Chaney was just following the guy in front of him. It was Raul Alves who put the left side tires on the white lawn. Good job of hanging on to it by the 30. Unfortunately, Chaney wasn't able to, and that car took a huge slide up the hill, and he ran out of real estate, slapped it into the fence, and went around 3rd yellow out on the night.
Yeah, he got right down there on that white line, and the apron is not friendly here at Auto Club. He got right on that apron, got more than enough under the white line, and it just sent him straight up the track. You saw in front of him, Raul Alves did it a little bit, but he was able to keep that car under control. Unfortunate for that 45 of Josh Chaney. He sent it right up into the wall, and as you mentioned, the 55 just plowed right into the back of him.
It was a tough break. He was right up against the fence, which would typically be better than being in the middle of the track, but we were talking about the tight conditions. That's exactly where everybody's coming up off of the quarter, and just one of those deals where you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and somehow that is how the metaphorical cookie crumbles, and a tough break for both of those guys as they're going to try to get those things fixed up. We're at lap 44 at Andy. Expected everybody to be down pit side this time, and that'll basically put us right at the halfway point, and it'll probably be a lot of 4 tire.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see anybody in their right mind taking 2 tires after the green flag run we just had. You're going to see every driver on the track right now come down pit road, get as many tires as they can, and fill this thing back up and get ready to go back hard racing. As you see the 40 lead them down, you get the 8 of Chad Cole, Doug Roth, and Tim Matthew all down with everybody else following in suit.
Keeping it on to the right-hand side, you saw Doug Roth. He's got a very early stop in pit road, qualified in 31st position, so his pit stall is about the 11th one that they passed. So he is already in, 4 tires, fuel on board, and he's already out of the box as the race leader David Comstock just enters his much down towards the end of the pit lane. Looks like all of these other guys going to go right side tires up. Crew going to go over to the left side. Going to be 4 tires and fuel for all of your race leaders. Anybody going to get a shot at the race lead? Doug Roth going to make it close. Comstock going to hold him off, and a drag race to the line.
Yeah, great pit stop out of that 43 machine. Like you mentioned, he had a pit stop towards the end of pit road, and pit road here is really, really long, so you got to get in your box and out of your box as quick as you can. So great stop by that 43 machine to be putting himself in position to be on the outside lead coming up on this restart.
To be halfway. When we go back to the green flag conditions, we'll take this opportunity to step aside and throw a quick yellow of our own. We'll go LSRTV nonstop so you don't miss a moment of the action. David Comstock, your leader at the halfway point in the California Indy. You watch LSRTV's continuing coverage of the 2016-2017 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series and iRacing Live. Plenty more to come from Fontana when we come back.
It was more than impressive, I have to say. I mean, the track is identical to the real track. I was blown away how realistic it is. Every little bump, every little spray paint, everything is exactly like you were there at the track. It was a great experience.
This is a warm-up lap now. Tires to get warmed up. The engine. Breathe a little bit here when you go through that little bump there. And then it's flat pretty much all the way through here, just about. Hard braking. This is the slowest part of the track.
And then I've done, I did many races in Formula 3, Formula 2. And then I did the very last race they did there in Group C in 1983 in the 956 Porsche. That's when Beloff got the lap record at the 6:11. I think I was second on the grid with the 6:14 or something. which was, I mean, those cars were awesome around there, of course, like any car is, you know, that speed.
This is the corner of all corners here, the Swedenkreuz. Flat all the way into it. And then trail brake all the way into the apex here. And then hard at it again to get good speed down the hill here. Mega fast down this hill here. Just jump from one apex to the next. Gotta be super precise here.
I mean, it's almost exactly like the real thing. So, I mean, it is certainly realistic enough to get past the very, you know, a lot of the initial hurdles you have when you try to learn to drive a race car, you know. So, I mean, I think it's an excellent tool to learn how to race for sure, or learn to drive a car on a racetrack.
Back live at the Auto Club Speedway. Wave-bys get to catch back up to the back of the field. The lights go out on top of the American Childhood Cancer Organization for the Mustang GT pace car. So we get set for a restart past the halfway point in tonight's California 90, part of the 2016-17 Real Racing Icebreaker Winter Series on LSRTV at iRacing Live. Once we get back at the green flag conditions and get this restart sorted out, we'll take a look at our iRacing Midway race break. We'll give you a rundown top to bottom. But for the restart, everybody in and out for service. 4 tires was the call for, I think, everybody. Comstock able to maintain the #1 position. Doug Roth picks up a spot, goes to P2. EJ O'Rourke, Chad Cole, Tim Matthews inside the top 5. But again, we'll let you know where everybody sits top to bottom here in just a moment. But now past the halfway point, Chris, coming off of the longest green flag stretch we've seen on tonight. These guys have to be thinking they might see that same kind of a thing here.
Yeah, and it was allowed a lot of these drivers to kind of get rhythm, get in their groove, figure out what they have to do to make this car turn the way they want it to. And this is where we're going to see all these drivers try to use up as much as they can of these fresh tires within a little bit of this green flag, make a lot of these passes now that they're on fresh tires.
Coming up, here we go. David Comstock going to be in control of the field. 47 laps complete from Fontana. Under the flag stand they come. Green flag flies are back underway. Once again, 3rd spot on the attack. EJ O'Rourke up the bottom to P2.
Yeah, not the start that Doug Roth wanted or Chad Cole. Chad Cole had to get that bump from the 30 of Raul Alves, who is now up in the top 5. We were talking about him making his way through up the top 10. He's now in that 5th position, but in the 6th position, I should say, as Tim Matthews was able to get around him. So not the start that 43 car wanted. Maybe going to try to make a move coming off of turn 4 here and try to get back on the inside. Did you see Doug Roth? There's a lot of time. We just saw that happen to the 45 car. He did the same thing, went way up the track, allowing for the rest of the drivers to go right on by him.
Spread things out up front rather quickly. A lot of side-by-side behind the top 5. They went inside of the top 10. The 2, Machine Kelly. He'll go up the inside of the 54. Try to get that spot away from Tim Matthews. Oh, the 62 with a big slide. William Hale in turn 2. Somehow he brings it back under control.
Yeah, and great save by him as we're getting ready to go 4 wide into turn 3. That's not going to work well. They're all going to settle out. All of these drivers, you know, thinking better of that 3-4 wide situation. They're now the double file in the 62, dropping a few positions, overtaking a crash car any day. He's now side by side with that 3 car of Scott Brotherton, all the way back in the 16th position.
3 wide they go, even with the 13 to Machine Dwayne Vincent in the middle of that battle. Up the inside came the 17 to Bobby Wetzel. On the outside was the 27 to Jeff Faviano. So a lot going on track at the moment. Some side-by-side even up in front of these guys with the number 3 machine of Scott Brotherton being able to finish out and stay in front of William Hale in the 62. But I think for a very brief moment, we're single file inside of the top 10. That one going to be short-lived, though. Raul Alves on the attack, trying to go to the inside of Jeremy Bazemore, who shuts the door at a 4. That one is the battle for 6th.
Yeah, definitely, and that's going to allow the 8 of Chad Cole to peak at the inside going into turns 1 here. Not going to make the move this time, but we kind of got a tight group here in the top 10. You know, you got the 40 of David Comstock for your leader, and you got the top 4 right on the back bumper of each other. As you see EJ look through the bottom, not going to be able to make the move. Comstock going to come down a little bit later than him, but all these drivers are really close together, something we didn't see a lot of on the last start.
As we noted, at lap number 45, we crossed the halfway point in this California 90. We'll take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and many more. At lap number 52, David Comstock is your race leader. After starting P5, he's got EJ O'Rourke back up behind him now in P2. And the biggest mover so far, Doug Roth, 31st to P3, just behind them. Tim Matthews in at number 4 spot, and Mike Kelly inside of the top 5. Just behind them, you've got those two who have been fighting, Jeremy Bazemore in 6th, and Raul Alves, who was battling for the race lead, and in fact led laps earlier on in this one in 7th spot. You got Chad Cole behind Tim. Cole also led laps early, trying to get back up to P1 as he searches for his 70th career RSR win. And he's back in the number 7 spot now. He's got behind Tim now. He just made a move on Alves, so Cole up to 7th, Alves back to 8th behind them. John Abbott, Pete on, and then Kevin Linden rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, just outside of them in 11th, Scott Simley, Shane Ewing 12th, 13th, Mike Franklin, Ronnie Potts 38th to 14th, as Mike Franklin's 37th to 13th. It's a great run by those guys, and rounding out your top 15, that 3 car, we just mentioned him, Scott Brotherton.
21st position going to go to Eric Shear. Jeffrey Ford back with Bavacqua. You got Jeffrey Ford now 21st as the positions continue to shuffle up here. Gerald Campbell 22nd, Dwayne Vincent 23rd, Doug Wyatt 24th rather, and Jared Treese inside of the top 25. Only 3 other cars on the lead lap. P26, Jose Gonzalez, P27, Scott Stenzel, and Alan Rowell in the number 28 spot. 2 drivers 1 lap down behind him in 29th and 30th, Joey Jatita and John Fowler.
Yeah, Kyle Taraska 31st. We saw him involved in that big wreck that brought out the second caution. Laura Lawson 32nd. 31st, Josh Cheney. Brian Macklin 34th, 10 laps down. Michael Waters 35th, 36th, Bobby Terrell, Justin Lisenby 37th, 38th, David Batone, Jeff Ward 39th, and rounding out your top 40, 44 laps down, that 37 machine of Eric Arnold.
Look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And if you are interested in signing up for a first-time iRacing subscription, not only are you going to get 13 cars and 14 tracks absolutely free when you sign up, but we'll also toss the NASCAR late model on top of that as well, absolutely free, if you enter in our exclusive promo code PR-2016 LSRTV. Again, it is valid on a new iRacing membership only, PR-2016 LSRTV. You can get the NASCAR late model free of charge, and a good way to get involved in the sim, especially because dirt is also not all that far around the corner. Back up front, 56 laps going to be in the books this time. David Comstock may be opening up his biggest gap of the evening.
Yeah, definitely. He's about half a second back, about half a second ahead now of EJ O'Rourke, who sits in that 6th position. Behind him, there's a whole lot of battling going on right now. We got the 2 of Mike Kelly up there in the 4th position, the 3rd position now, as he makes a move on Doug Roth and Jeremy Bazemore. He's right behind that 54 of Tim Matthews now, as Doug Roth looks back to the inside. So nothing short of a great race shaping up here, as you see Tim Matthews getting on the back bumper of EJ O'Rourke now. So everybody trying to jockey for position early on while they still have a lot of these fresh tires.
The driver going to stay high. Comstock easily able to get around Justin Lisenby, who is going to go 23 laps down now. And he's into the fence as these guys try to snake their way around him. Takes away the top lane, but it's a good effort of trying to stay up and try to be as little of a factor in some of that as he can. There's a lot going on, though, inside of the top 10 now. You've got a battle going on between the 30 Raul Alves and the 1 of Jeremy Bazemore. Those guys just can't decide on who's going to lead who. They've been going back and forth a couple of times. And though the 43 of Doug Roth restarted 2nd, he's had a rough go at it the last 10 times around the racetrack. If Mike Kelly's able to stay in front of him, he'd drop all the way back to P5.
Yeah, definitely, as you see Doug Ross go all the way to that white line, not quite under it as we've seen many people go before, but you see 3 wide now. Abbott's going to make it 3 wide in the 10 car underneath Raul Alves. He's going to back out of it, not going to be able to make it stick for him. That's going to reduce it to 2 wide. We had a position change. Doug Roth was able to get around Mike Kelly, but Mike Kelly crossed him over, and it looks like Chad Cole is going to look to follow him through here, use that 2 car as kind of a pick to get around the 43 car, as you see Raul Alves still trying to get on the inside of Jeremy Bazemore, real close off the corner there, but not able to do it this time back.
And we have learned from a couple of instances tonight, one of which, and very notably, occurred with Alves for the number 1 position, is that it's a tight track. You go to the inside on somebody, you better hope it sticks down. You push up just a little bit, and things can get out of control quickly, and he's able to make it side by side with John Abbott, and he's going to win that fight, maintain the number 8 spot, and coming up behind him, how about Kevin Linden? Relatively quiet night for the Lowe's Chevrolet, started 13th. He wants a P9 position. He's got it, as he also gets around the 10.
Yeah, and Scott Simley was looking to make a move there, but John Abbott shuts the door as Kevin Linden's able to get around him. He was up on the back bumper of Raul Alves, but yeah, quiet night for that 48 machine. He started 13th, as you mentioned, just kind of riding around outside the top 10. As you see John Abbott trying to make a move back on him for that 9th position. He's going to be there, going to get right there as they got a car coming off the pit road. That's the 14. John Abbott is going to be able to make that pass stick on the inside and clear him off of turn 2.
But there's a lot going on in this big single file freight train up at the front of the field. 2/3 of the way home now tonight from Fontana. We are getting down to crunch time in the California 90. 29 more times around for David Comstock. He'd like it to be an uneventful 29 more laps in this one as he sits 0.5 of a second in front of E.J. O'Rourke. He opened up that gap very quickly. I noted that I think might have been Comstock's biggest gap that he's had all night long. Since then, E.J. hasn't let him get any further away, so see if that 41 can do anything as we transition over from a shorter stint, get a lot more laps on these tires, go into long run mode if the 41 was doing a better job of conserving in those opening laps off of the restart.
Yeah, definitely, and the 41 can't keep all of his focus on that 40 machine. He's got Tim Matthews knocking on that back door of him, as well as Mike Kelly and Chad Cole. They're all getting right up to the back bumper of that 41 machine, and so he's got to keep his focus a little bit more focused on the back and make sure he doesn't lose too many positions as he's trying to catch right back up to this 40 of David Comstock. Comstock on rails, we mentioned earlier, he was the fastest car on track. He's showing it here 0.5 of a second faster than everybody, 0.5 of a second ahead of everybody, I should say, on the racetrack right now, as you see a battle shaping up for the 3rd place position as Mike Kelly is beaten on the back bumper of Tim Matthews going into the corner. It's going to send him a little bit up the track. Mike Kelly's going to get the run off the corner, not going to be able to stick it there yet. Nope, not going to clear him there. He's going to send it to the inside on the front straightaway, going to be right there going off across the start finish line and off into turn 1.
And send it off to turn number 1 in a side-by-side fight for the number 3 spot inside the place to be. Mike Kelly had him cleared, but Tim Matthews comes back on the outside. Better at carrying that momentum. He'll try to use any sort of advantage the 14 degrees of banking topside can give him. He'll pull to about 3/4 of a car, but just not clear. And that means Kelly gets the bottom once again.
Yeah, definitely. Kelly's not giving up yet. He's going to power off of turn 3. He's going to be able to dive it all the way down to the bottom of the track like we've seen so many drivers do before. But that's allowed the 8 of Chad Cole to try to make his way back up and get around these two now that they've been battling for a short time as Kelly clears him. I don't think Matthews is going to be able to charge back on the high side, but that allowed Chad Cole to catch right back up and maybe play spoiler in these two's battle for the 3rd place.
A 3-way fight now, back behind E.J. O'Rourke. EJ's kind of a no man's land at the moment. He's dropped 2 more tenths to Comstock. Comstock pulling now a 0.7 of a second advantage, but up until a couple of laps ago, it was E.J. O'Rourke with somebody plaster rain on his deck lid. Now that these guys are starting to shuffle some blows and exchange blows back here, he's able to pull away just a little bit. But if Mike Kelly can hang on to 3rd and not give an opportunity to Tim Matthews or Chad Cole to come back at him, he might be able to chase down EJ. The second those guys go side by side once again, though, they lose any opportunity, I think, of catching up to the 41 sooner than later.
Yeah, definitely. As we had a pass for that sixth place position, I should say, Jeremy Bazemore getting around the 43 of Doug Roth. He's going to be able to try to make his way up to the battle that's happening right now between Chad Cole and Tim Matthews. As Chad Cole sends it off into 3, he's going to be able to clear that 54 machine and be right on the back bumper of that 2 machine, Mike Kelly. So a lot of these drivers battling for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and it's going to be interesting because that's going to allow Comstock and EJ O'Rourke to kind of pull away. As you see Chad Cole dive all the way down below the white line there, like we've seen him do so many times in these longer runs, and he's going to be right on the inside of Mike Kelly. He's going to make that pass stick and clear him, but Mike Kelly's going to look right back down to the bottom and cross him up and be right back on his inside coming off 2.
54 has to make a decision. Does he want to force it 3 wide? There's space if he really feels compelled to, but might just sit back and watch the side-by-side take the lane that the winner does. On the inside, the 2 of Mike Kelly able to successfully hold off Chad Cole. But Cole going to cross him up, go to the bottom. They'll keep it side-by-side at a battle for 3rd. Drag race at the line, still going to be in favor of that 2 of Mike Kelly, but Chad Cole able to get around the 54 of Matthews, just a lap ago, and now to the inside, trying to make his way to 3rd. Got a half a car length in front and executes off the corner. Nice job by the 8 machine, who, just like we saw David Comstock do on the last run, charging back up through the field, now in P3, and he'll have to go down and shut the door on the 2 for extra measure.
Yeah, definitely, and the 2 of Mike Kelly's not going to like that. He gave him a little bit of a shove going off, and he turns him going into the turn. That's going to allow them to save it here. Big checkup as you see the 1 of Jeremy Bazemore get right into the back of the 54 of Tim Matthews. That's going to be really good news for that 43 car of Doug Roth. He didn't have to slow up at all for that. He's going to gain about 3 positions along with a lot of other drivers. You saw Scott Simley come through and Mike Franklin come up through the field. So big checkup out of turn 4 that pays off for a lot of these drivers that were once behind but are now back up in this race.
I'm surprised that he let the 8 go, because the 8 shut the door on him, and it looked like that Mike Kelly did exactly what he wanted to do. He put tires on the apron, he drove right into the left rear quarter panel, so it looked like he was trying to take the 8 out and send a message, but quickly got on the binders and allowed a 8 machine to Chad Cole to hang on to it. It cost all of those guys tons of time, not to mention the damage they picked up in that. They went from being just a little bit off of the back of EJ O'Rourke to now over 4.5 seconds to the driver in P2. And Doug Roth, by the way, in the 43, was able to storm on through and take over 4th. Not sure how long that'll last, though, because Chad Cole going to go to the inside, go side-by-side for that position, Chris. If Chad Cole gets back to the bumper, that 2 of Mike Kelly, watch out.
Yeah, it may not be a little pretty for that 2 of Mike Kelly. Maybe a little bit of retribution on the side of Chad Cole as he makes that pass now on Doug Roth along with Scott Simley and Mike Franklin. They're going to get by him. They're going to be right on the back bumper of Chad Cole. So Chad looking to try on that 2 car, and I'm really interested to see what's going to happen when they get right back up next to each other.
Waiting for it to happen. The problem is Chad Cole might have a little bit more damage than he was bargaining for. He's got the 82 Mike Franklin oval over him, and to be honest, not sure we've said Mike Franklin's name since the grid, but the 82 Toyota, who started in 37th position, this time by to the inside of Chad Cole, looks to pick up a 33rd spot as he tries to get to P4, and it looks like he's got the advantage off of the corner. Not going to be clear, but may have the nose in front. What a charge.
Yeah, and even though they're battling right now 2 wide, they're still able to catch that driver of the 2 machine, Mike Kelly. Mike Kelly's got a little bit of right front damage from that major contact, maybe a little bit damaged than he was hoping for as he slides up off the corner. He gets a little bit loose. He saves it. That's going to put Chad Cole right on the back bumper. Not going to do anything this time. He's going to go right on by that 2 of Mike Kelly, but, just lost a ton of time coming off a 2 by getting a little bit loose off the corner there.
Yeah, there's a good battle of cars back here. 5 seconds off with Mike Kelly, Franklin, Cole, Simley, and Roth. And, that 2 machine, rather, Kelly kind of lucked out in all of that. And I know it sounds strange to say so because it got loose and nearly ended up in the fence. Got really tight with that lap car. But At least he didn't have to deal with Chad Cole coming to the back bumper, but I do think Kelly is quicker than the 8 at this moment, unless the 8 just had a really bad lap that allowed Franklin to catch up to him. If that car was at all affected, heated up the tires from that big slide, maybe got some damage from the contact, if he's hurt at all, Mike Kelly might be able to get back to him. But again, I will repeat that is a battle that you want to watch. But again, it is all David Comstock and EJ O'Rourke now. Those guys separated by 1.1 seconds are about a quarter of a track in front of everybody else. They're 5 seconds in front of third on back. And barring a caution, which is what those two don't want to see, they're sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, and we still got one more pit stop to make, Evan, so it's going to be interesting to see when all of these drivers make that pit stop. We're on lap 74, coming up to 75, so you would think it would be within the next maybe 5-10 laps to see that last pit stop happen, so everybody can go to the end. I saw a lot of drivers on pit road already. Those people were back farther in the field. They were on pit road already coming off, so it's going to be interesting to see when these drivers come down pit road.
We wait to see when that point comes. Again, we got service completed basically right at the halfway point. Drivers were down pit road at lap number 46. We're at lap 75 now, so essentially have gone 30 laps into this run. We're also going to collect 15 laps to go the next time by. We haven't seen a definitive number on fuel yet tonight, because on the last run we had in this race, which was the longest, we had to slow things down after about 30 laps of green flag action to that point. So the question kind of just sits there in air, and we wonder who is the first driver to maybe make a move. Do they run it dry and then come down, try to take on just a little bit of fuel, enough to make it to the end? Of course, when you're taking on less fuel, you could get away with going maybe 2 tires. Or do we see somebody pit earlier, get 4 tires, get back out there with fresher laps sooner? That's the question that really we don't have an answer to right now.
Yeah, definitely still not an answer. It's going to be interesting to see, because you don't want to wait too long into this run. As you said, we had 15 laps to go, so you got to make the move, quickly and get back up there to the front and ensure that, there's only 90 laps in this thing. There's not that much time left. There's not a lot of wiggle room here. You got to hurry up and make your move and get out and get back on the track as fast as you can, but you also want to wait to the last point you possibly can to get the freshest tires to go the rest of the way here. So, definitely going to be interesting to see what brings the drivers down here first. It's going to be interesting whether it's time, whether it's fuel, but you just can't wait too long, especially at a track like Auto Club.
We'll take an opportunity to step aside one final time. We'll go LSRTV non-stop so you can keep it out in the battle for the race lead. David Comstock, 13 laps away from a trip to RSR victory lane. EJ O'Rourke is half a second back and trying to close. You're watching LSRTV's coverage of the RSR Icebreaker Winter Series. It's the home stretch from Auto Club.
So obviously you guys have come from the virtual world to reality. What do you think about a sim racer coming in the real world? What were your expectations coming in?
Coming from iRacing, a computer program basically down here to a real world scenario where you got all these guys with all these years and years and years and years of experience that are also using iRacing as a tool to come out and run against those guys and beat them and finish ahead of them and show them, there's a thing or two you might be missing is fantastic. That's a skill that I know I don't have, and I can appreciate it because I'm terrible at iRacing.
Glenn was able to come into the team. We did a lot of preseason testing, actually a full season's worth of testing before we even started the season. And he came in, there was a lot of sectors that he was the fastest guy out of our team. And Sparky and I are looking at data, trying to catch up to him through some turns. And of course, some places Sparky will be the fastest or I'll be the fastest, and Glenn is able to learn from what we're doing and vice versa. So it was excellent to see his pace right off of the bat, and speed was never a worry. You know, it's about qualifying well. Qualifying is very difficult, you know, and pretty important in this series. And so is, you know, being able to make effective passes without contact. It's very difficult to pass in these cars, so, you know, it's not easy being here.
I think the level of ultra competitiveness in here, where when normally when you make a pass, you're making a pass with 2 cars involved. But if we're making a pass in this series, you have to remember there's 5 cars waiting behind you. If you mess up that pass, they're going by you.
Yeah, it's like sharks.
Yeah, you're surrounded by sharks. But no, it's been I've been very surprised and very pleased with it. And obviously, I have the 2 champions I'm sitting between.
Back live in Fontana, caution flag, just shy of 10 laps to go. We'll talk about the yellow in a minute, but your race leaders are down pit road for the final time, and they're doing it all together. Green flag pit stops out the window. This is going to be the call that decides who wins. Does somebody go with 2 tires, or is 4 tires and speed going to be the name of the game? David Comstock in as the number 1 driver. He heads off to pit stall number 5.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting. This is as level as you can get. We're going to get the restart with maybe about 6 laps to go here, and maybe more, maybe around 7, but it's just throw everybody field. You're going to be as close as you can get here on this restart. So even though the fuel strategy and, you know, playing the strategy game is out the window, I'm really interested to see what moves happen here, Evan. It can get really interesting really fast because everybody knows that they have to make their moves now.
As much as you know, the 2-tire calls are interesting and such, I'm always a fan of what everybody decides to go with 4, because it means that everybody's going to have 4 tires. They're going to be fast, and that's when you're at your best, obviously, and it's kind of self-explanatory. So you're not going to have guys up front just hoping to squeak out a yellow and, you know, being slow to restart. If you've got a car that you think you could win it, you got 4 tires. Now's the time to do it. That caution flag came out. I know we were on the side-by-side. Issues with the 33 of Justin Lisenby. He had some connection issues earlier on in this one, and it continues to have them, and it was a single car accident off to turn number 1. Just got up the safer barrier at this racetrack, jets out at 1. There is no safer barrier on the front stretch there, so it jumps out in turn 1, and he was up against the fence, clipped it, spun him around. You know, for the guys up front, I'm sure that if you feel like you're good, and maybe in this position, David Comstock may not mind. He did have the biggest gap, though. It's one thing to have a caution flag come out, Chris, and as you've been sitting there for 30 laps and calculating what your call is going to be to try to win yourself this race, and it's just a little bit more annoying when it's a guy who's over 20 laps down.
Yeah, definitely, and you gotta think on one of the flip sides. You gotta think it's a sigh of relief for, you know, EJ O'Rourke, Mike Franklin, Chad Cole, Mike Kelly, who are, you know, maybe a second to just about 5 seconds behind David Comstock. You know, now they're right on the back bumper. They can see him, but everybody's going to have to be on their toes during this restart because, you know, it's all up to that 40 machine on when they're allowed to take that green flag. So they got to be paying attention. All eyes are going to be on David Comstock coming up to this restart just to see when he goes green, and you got to have a perfect restart if you have any contention of winning this race here now.
Take a look at that 40. There is a bunch of guys in front of him. Those are all wave bys, guys who are going to stay out here to get back to the lead lap. So Brian Macklin going to be waved by. He will go from 11 to 10 laps down. Laura Lawson going to go from 5 to 4 laps down. Joey Jattina going to get himself within 1 lap down. Jeremy Bazemore going to get back to the lead lap along with Jose Gonzalez, Bobby Wetzel, and Jeffrey Ford. So a handful of guys here and there are going to be able to pick up a lap. Jatina's move, I think, the most of benefit outside of the guys who are actually getting to the lead lap, because a quick yellow, if he can stay in front of John Fowler, the only other driver 1 lap down at the moment, he could get to the lead lap via a lucky dog and be able to battle on a late race restart. But along with that theme, Chris, as always, have to note that in these races, there is no overtime. We're racing to lap number 90. No more and no less. So with that being said, as we get set for this late race restart, if we get a caution inside of 5 laps to go. This race is done. There is nothing extra on top of it all. So David Comstock is going to take the restart here with 83 laps complete. It'll be a 7-lap to go restart. That is a very small window to see a yellow and still have an opportunity to go back green. So this thing could end basically at 5 or 4 laps to go. Comstock may only have to hold on for 3 laps. We'll find out, though. It all depends on how this shakes out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers play this restart. It's definitely going to be interesting to see the 7-lap restart, because it's the caution that we're going to see is almost going to be necessarily, like, if you're going to get a caution, it's going to have to happen immediately is what I'm trying to say here. It's coming out now. It's going to happen almost immediately. With how we're going right now, it's going to happen, but with 7 laps to go, starting with 7 laps to go, anything is possible. So I'm not putting a caution out of the question, but if they're looking to go back green, it's going to have to happen with either this lap or next lap.
We'll see just how this one ends up. Pace car lights are off. Going to duck down out of the way. David Comstock going to be in control of a 28-car lead lap field here from the Auto Club Speedway. Can he close this one out? Put himself in victory lane once again on RSR competition. Could it be for the final time? Comstock on the gas. American Ethanol, green flag.
Yeah, and you see them going across the start-finish line. E.J. O'Rourke was really the only person to keep up with that 40 machine of David Comstock. As you see the 82 of Mike Franklin kind of falling off there. You got Mike Kelly just now passing the 8 of Chad Cole. We mentioned that's going to be something you're going to watch for. If Chad Cole can get back up to the 2 car of Mike Kelly, he's not going to be as respectable going around that 2 car. He's going to maybe give him the same bump we saw Mike Kelly give him a few laps earlier. As you see the 82 of Mike Franklin get right a little bit tight going. He's going to lose a lot of positions. He's slow on the bottom as a caution comes out here, and we're going to go back green.
Yeah, maybe some sort of a penalty for Mike Franklin. It looked like he was trying to get checked up to get on pit road, but big junk in turn number 4 is going to make that not possible. Handful of drivers involved in this one. The Bernard Ronnie Potts is one of them, and that's where it all started. We'll get a second look at this one on the LSRTV replay. Down on the bottom of the racetrack, and I mean, you could argue that there was a lane there. It is a restart inside of the final 10 laps of this race, Chris, but the 32, I think, forces an issue there that really didn't need to happen, and he just drove into the left rear of the 9 car.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm looking at that. He looked like he had it made through. He weaved his way through a bunch of those cars, got it straight up the middle, but ultimately lost control off into the outside wall and sent that car flying. So, lucky for these guys, especially the guys that didn't get a good start. They get one more shot at it, and the last shot they have to get this restart right. But it's going to be interesting to see. Unfortunate for all these drivers involved in this wreck, but they can look forward to next week and just put this race behind them.
The drivers involved in that one, you got the 32 of Shane Ewing as well. Obviously, the 9 car I noted was involved in that one. A couple of the guys pick up some damage in this one. The 10 of John Abbott is involved. Again, a lot of the guys who had no part of this just get collected late in this one, had nowhere else to go. The 21 of Jared Treese. Looks like Eric Shear may have been able to sneak away with relatively minor damage, but there was a lot of guys junked in that one, and it was a tough break. Again, kind of came down to just 2 guys fighting over one piece of real estate, and you kind of have to expect that late in these races. But at the end of the day, most every incident on the racetrack is avoidable in one way or another. But again, not surprising, Chris, being inside of the final 10 laps of this race. This is not the time where guys are trying to make friends.
Yeah, not surprising at all, Evan. I kind of expected it to happen, especially on that lap. Everybody just trying to race as hard as they can, get as many positions as they can on that start, and like you mentioned, just racing for the same piece of real estate, it doesn't always work out like we saw there. It didn't, and you'd think with as wide as this track is, it allows a lot of these drivers to move around, and you try to avoid these wrecks as much as possible, but it doesn't seem to happen the way you think it would, Evan, and a lot of drivers normally get caught up in a lot of these wrecks.
So now the stage is set. That very small window that we had to get a caution flag and still be given a restart in this race but fit in that small bubble, and it's going to happen. We're working lap 86 now, not expecting the lights to go out on the pace car this time around, thinking he got at least 2 more times around. If that is the case, it would set us up for a 2-lap green-white checker to the end. If the lights go out this time, it would give us as many as 3 laps left in this one. We'll find out if it will be a 3-lap to go restart. Lights on top of the pace car as expected stay on, so at least one more time around before the lights go out. We're looking at either a 2-lap or a 1-lap shootout.
Yeah, and this is going to be the longest 2 laps of of all these drivers' lives, just trying to shake the nerves off, and especially for the 41, the 40, the 2, all of these drivers inside the top 5 who have a really good shot at winning this race. The nerves have got to be running wild right now, especially just sitting behind that pace car with the lights still on. So got to be 2 of the longest laps of these drivers' race so far.
Comstock, O'Rourke, Kelly, Simley, Cole inside of the top 5. Raul Alves just behind in 6th. Hale, Brotherton, Vincent, Abbott, the top 10. And a total still of 27 drivers scored on the lead lap. Guys, 1 lap down to get involved in that one. Fowler, Roll, Fabiano, Lawson, and a couple of other drivers. Single digits laps downs. But at this point, you're not going to be able to get back into this thing. And top 27 on the lead lap, sure, you could pick up a spot here or there, but I think really, unless something wild breaks out up at the front of the field, and we've already seen somebody get dubbed for the race lead earlier on in this race in the opening 15 laps, let alone the final 5, assuming that nothing absolutely crazy happens, I think you have to be about top 5 to get a good shot at this.
Well, if you go back to just 1 week ago at Daytona, we had a crazy, huge wreck where people from, 15th to 25th had a chance to win the race after all. So, something like that can happen at Auto Club. We saw it happen earlier with the leader, Brian Macklin, getting taken out by Raul Alves coming out of 2. So it's not out of the question, Evan. So if it does happen, just look for all of these drivers outside of the top 10 to be racing a lot harder than they are right now.
Well, the lights on top of the pace car have gone out. We are going to get a 2-lap to go restart. It is also important to note that, as we said, that in this race here, that late on in this one, if we get a caution now before the white flag, the race will still end under caution flag conditions. There is no more overtime. But at the same time, if we get the white flag, doesn't matter how many guys wreck. Next driver to the checkered flag is able to get the win in this race. So it could go numerous ways. I think the good news is for Comstock is he's got a familiar face at the front row with E.J. O'Rourke. So take a look to see if those two try to coordinate things and maybe work together here on this one. The Ford Mustang GT pace car is going to duck off at the pit lane, and we got a build coming tomorrow, and the pace car is going to be changed from the Ford Mustang. So for the final time, maybe, we say goodbye to the Ford Mustang pace car, who is going to make the sharp left-hand turn down to the safety of the pit lane, as it has for as long as you can remember here on the iRacing service, and put the field in the hands of David Comstock. It is going to be a 2-lap shootout in Fontana, California. Green flag in the air to the line with 4 miles left to go.
Yeah, and EJ O'Rourke gets a great start. He's going to be right on the outside, as you see, almost 3 wide in the 30 of Raul Alves, trying to go as high as he can. Mike Kelly not getting the start he needed, but the next flag ends it, Evan. This is it. This is all the drivers need. They're all racing for the same thing. You see Chad Cole right up on the back bumper of Mike Kelly going into
caution. That's it.
Caution's out. It's over.
Driver's not happy over what happened down the back straightaway, and there is a car on its lid. Gerald Campbell slides across his roof, comes to a stop on all 4s. The caution is out, and this race is over. We'll take a second look at the accident on the LSRTV replay. In fact, it started, though, well in front of the guy who ended up on his lid, with Dwayne Vincent in the number 13 machine. Off to the quarter he went. It almost a mirrored image, Chris, so what we saw earlier on in this one with Alves and Macklin, the 13 drives to the inside, isn't given the lane. The 3 tries to block, and the contact is made from there, and at that point it was on, and Dwayne Vincent tried to hang on to that number 13 as it came sliding back up the track, but it snapped back up the hill into traffic, and it was on from there.
Yeah, it's what we've seen a lot of tonight, just drivers racing for the same piece of track, and it just doesn't work out a lot of the time, and that's what you saw there, just everybody getting together. It's a real tight track, real tight cars. If you just sit there for too much, the cars just push up just a little bit, but it's got to be a sigh of relief for that 40 of David Comstock. The 41 of EJ O'Rourke was looking to make a move going into 3 there, didn't get to make it, so David Comstock comes out your winner here of the Auto Club 90. Great run for him, sure deserved it. He drove the wheels off of that thing.
Bring it out at turn number 4. It'll be at just 70 miles an hour, but it'll come across the start-finish line behind that Ford Mustang GT pace car. David Comstock going to pick up career Real Sim Racing race win number 14. He wins the California 90 from Auto Club Speedway and picks up the win in race number 2 on this Icebreaker calendar year. And, despite the fact that in some of these races, Chris, we have these late race yellows and, somebody lucks into a win, and not that that's a bad thing. If you could luck into a win, put yourself in the right spot at the right time, more power to you. A win's a win. But I think David Comstock deserved this one, definitely, with how good that 40 car was, especially when he took tires late and just powered through the field there in that middle portion of the race, and then was able to hold these guys off on 2 late race restarts.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the biggest move of this race, that 4-tire stop that ultimately put David Comstock in the winning position. As you see the fireworks go off down the backstretch as he drives down the backstretch. Great run for that 40 car of David Comstock. He definitely deserved it. Even if you can luck out into a win, you take a win however you can get it. Just like you mentioned, a win is a win, and that's exactly how David Comstock views it.
Going to come by the front straightaway. He's got some celebrating to do for the Monster Energy Chevrolet, and when he's done with that, we'll meet up with him at trackside in Gatorade Victory Lane. David Comstock, though, your winner tonight from Fontana, California. We'll talk to him and the rest of your top finishers coming up on the other side of the LSR TV post-race show. Still plenty more to come from Fontana. You're watching our coverage of the 2016-2017 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series on LSR TV, the voice of sim racing.
So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the tire model? Nothing?
Welcome back live to the Auto Club Speedway for the LSRTV post-race show. Following the California 90, now 2 races of 10 on this 2016-2017 Race to Race at Icebreaker Winter Series campaign have come and gone. Race winner 1 week ago, Michael Waters, and race winner tonight, David Comstock. He is trackside in victory lane. We'll chat with him in a moment. First, we take a look at tonight's full race results for round number 2. Comstock, good car all night long. The number 40 machine picks up career win number 14. EJ O'Rourke comes home second. Mike Kelly comes home in third. And those 3 are going to be with us in just a moment. Chad Cole, valiant effort for a driver who had led laps early. His comeback came a little bit shy in that spot. And Scott Simley behind him ended up tonight inside of the top 5. Raul Alves has to settle for a P6 result. William Hale gets a good result in 7th spot. John Abbott behind Tim at 8th. Kevin Linden comes home at 9th position, rounding out your top 10. Good result in the end for Scott Stenzel's 42.
Yeah, Jeremy Bazemore started 12th tonight. He finished 11th, so +1 on the night for that one machine. Good run for him. Coming home in 12th, Jared Treese, Bobby Wetzel 13th, 14th, Douglas Wright, Ronnie Potts in 15th, 16th, Jeffrey Ford, 17th, Doug Roth, Mike Franklin 18th, 19th, Shane Ewing, and rounding out your top 20 is Jose Gonzalez.
21st spot for Steve Bavacqua, as well with Dwayne Vincent 22nd and Tim Matthews in 23rd behind Tim. Scott Brotherton 24th, Joey Chattina 25th, and final driver to finish on the lead lap is Gerald Campbell. 1 lap down, P27, John Fowler. 4 laps down in 28th for Laura Lawson. Eric Shear is 5 laps down in 29th. So was Alan Rowell, who comes home in 30th.
31st, 7 laps down, Jeff Faviano. Brian Macklin, 32nd, 33rd, Bobby Turrell, Justin Lisenby, 34th, 35th, Kyle Tarasca, 36th, Josh Cheney, 37th, Michael Walters, 38th, David Batone, Jeff Ward, 39th, 40th, Eric Arnold, 41st, Michael Priester, Joe Hudson is 42nd, and rounding out your field in 43rd, Keith Brooks Jr. in that 81 machine. Evan, you are now trackside in victory lane with that 40 car of David Comstock. It's got to be one hell of a celebration down there.
But you had to hold him off late. He had a good car, and there were 2 points in that race there after the halfway point where he opened up a little bit of distance, and unfortunately he had to go through 2 late race restarts. It wasn't enough to keep David Comstock at a victory lane. He's your winner tonight from the Auto Club Speedway, and we're trackside with the driver of that number 40. David, congratulations to you guys, your 14th career real sim racing win, and they made you work for it there late. I'll tell you what, you guys opened up about, I think, 1.5 second lead, and then a caution came out at 10 to go, forced you guys down pit road. What were you thinking?
Well, I knew our plan was to get 4 tires no matter what, because it was a long run there, and we were good to go on fuel no matter what. I was good by 3 laps, so it was just more so making sure that I got in the box good, had a good pit stop, and was able to get out and kept the lead based off the good pit stop. And then it was just holding it off from restarts there, and EJ and I, we worked them.
Yeah, that was the next question, is having EJ there with you on the front right earlier on in this race when you guys were moving around each other in a battle inside of those top 3 spots. You gave each other a little bit more room. Was that really a critical part of those late race restarts, having a 41 alongside you there, or did it really not make too much of a difference when you consider the fact that you had somebody like a Mike Kelly right on the bumper that you still had to deal with, and you really couldn't take it too easy and rely too much on having the 41 there too?
It was helpful for, at least for in his case, for having me in the lead, because we were on the same channel together. We can just I can let him know when I was going to accelerate, so that helped keep him to where he can get a good restart and then cover the guys behind us, and or if he got a good enough run off the corner to get a chance and go after me. But regardless, we once we got out there, it was just teamwork, and we worked them.
I know that you guys expect to be racing up front every single week and obviously in a position to fight for a championship. A lot of guys came out of Daytona with a headache, and you guys came home 24th position in that one. So to bounce right back and get a win this quickly back at round number 2 to try to make up for that hole that you already find yourself in after just 1 week, now kind of back on track with still 8 races to go. You guys have to feel a lot better, I think, at this point than you did a week ago.
Well, last week all 3 of us showed that we had the capability of running up front. It's just a matter of finishing it, and we validated that here this week.
There are no other plate races on the calendar, so you don't have to worry about going on to Daytona. But we do see one more track kind of similar to this one later on in the year. Race number 5 is going to be at Michigan. I know that the tracks look the same from above, but I know that a lot of guys believe that they drive quite differently, especially when tonight was a night race, Michigan not going to be one. How would you stack those two up side by side, and can you at all take this win as a good sign when we head off to Michigan for that 5th race?
Yeah, you can drive them almost the same. You can't run necessarily along the white line like you can or like you have to here. So it is a sister track, and we can just take notes off how we ran here and be ready for when that track comes around. I wish that there was a road course, though, personally, at least one of them. But regardless, our equipment's good, drivers are good. I feel real good about this season.
This week, you got the result that the car deserved, unlike 1 week ago, David. The sponsors, the shout-outs, the folks behind the scenes. Who makes it happen for you guys?
I'd like to first thank all my teammates and everyone back at Aftermath Motorsports for allowing not only myself, but EJ and Macklin for us to come over and run this league here and represent the team, and Monster Energy and Gary Mercer Trucking for being on board every single week. And personal shout out to EJ. He sent me a T-shirt from Tony Stewart's last race that they had over there, and I wore that tonight. I feel like that's a lucky shirt I'm going to be wearing every single week now. So everybody here at Real Sim Racing for providing the leagues, and you guys at Live Sim Racing TV for broadcasting every single week.
You got the job done nonetheless at number 40 Chevrolet David Comstock at Victory Lane tonight in Fontana. David, as always, thanks for sticking around and chat with us. Congratulations, sir, to you and the rest of the guys, and we'll see you when we do it again in 1 week.
All right, you see you guys. Have a good week.
David Comstock got the job done late, and the driver who was a big part of that was E.J. O'Rourke, as those guys are able to come home 1-2 tonight and caught up trackside with not only E.J. O'Rourke, but also your third-place finisher, Mike Kelly, is Chris Murdoch. Chris, you're down with the 41, though.
I am, Evan. E.J., you started outside, in the 9th position, coming home second. Gotta be a heck of a run for you guys. Why don't you run us through that race that you guys had tonight?
Well, Chris, this 41 Gary Mercer Trucking Chevrolet was pretty strong. I was actually surprised how well I was doing. I didn't think I was going to run that good, even to lead and to run top 5. But yeah, I took 2 tires on the first stop and got to 4th, and was just able to capitalize on the track position and have the track position for the long green flag run at the end and come home second, which was pretty cool.
And having such a familiar face in David Comstock up there with you on the front row had to be a little bit easier for you guys to control the field. You guys were side by side within the last 10 laps. How key was the communication between you guys on the restarts?
Well, David Comstock is a great friend of mine, so he helped me out on the restarts and let me know when he was going. With the setup and the track conditions being the way it was, you could almost run flat out, for the first few laps. So I'd rather take the second place instead of maybe, getting trained. I wasn't going to pass them on the first few laps, just the way the tracks are. It's so hard to pass in the first couple laps. But I'll take second any day. It's a good points day. That's what we need, and I'll go on to next week.
Yeah, now that Daytona and Auto Club are out of the way, you were outside of the top 10 in points coming into the race. Now you are 5th in points after that second place result. We know it's still early, but should we expect the same amount of consistency out of your team to moving forward?
I hope so. I don't know. I would love to win a race, but if not, I would love to be being in on points regardless to make the chase. It's a whole different from last year. Last year it was no chase, so this year it's totally different. It's win and you're in, and if you can't win, try to get the best finish you can. So it's a interesting point system here at RSR, but we'll see how we like it in a few weeks. We'll see where I'm at.
And, before we let you go here, EJ, we always like to give the drivers one opportunity to get out any sponsor shout-outs or anybody that's helped it made possible for them. So who makes it happen for that 41 machine, EJ?
Well, of course, Gary Mercer Trucking, Chevrolet, Papa's Hardware, obviously LSRTV, and you guys for broadcasting this. I love going back and watching this. And Chad Cole, John Abbott, Joey Katina, everyone at Real Sim Racing for putting this on. This is a lot better show this week. Last week was more of a parade under caution. This week was really good, long green flag runs, and I really enjoyed it. And to come home P2 is really cool to David. That's awesome.
And there you have it, guys. That's your second place finisher EJ O'Rourke. EJ, congratulations on your second place finish. We hope to be talking with you a lot more throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you, Chris.
There you have it. That's EJ O'Rourke, your second place finisher. I'm going to throw it right back over to Evan Pasoko, who's left victory lane and made his way down pit road to your third place finisher, Mike Kelly. Evan, you're with him now.
Mike Kelly, the odd man out in this conversation with these guys inside of the top three because, well, he had to kind of deal with Comstock and EJ there working together on the front row. But it's going to be a P3 result tonight for Mike Kelly. Mike, congratulations. You guys started back in 27th position in this one, which I believe ties you for the biggest mover on the night, along with Scott Simley, who started 2 positions behind you and finished 2 positions behind you. So inherently, it was a long night for you guys working up through the field. How'd you do it?
Oh yeah, I wanted to keep up my epic qualifying adventures and like passing a lot of cars. I'm using the Kyle Larson method. I just like passing a lot of cars. No, that was a heck of a fun race. It was sketchy, and I didn't know how it was going to work out with a full field like that. And after my terrible run at last week, in the old super speedway, once again having a chance to have a great finish, take it away at the end, I really just had a mindset of getting a good solid top 10 tonight, and really I overperformed probably getting a third, but I'll take it.
I don't think anybody had a fun time in Daytona. You, EJ, and David, who come home top 3 tonight, all finished outside the top 20 1 week ago in this one. There was a point in this race, though, right before we set things up for those 2 late race restarts, at about 12 laps to go at a long green flag stretch. David Comstock said he was good by about 3 laps. The big question was if we were going to see anybody coming down pit road. Were you guys good as well?
Yeah, I was good by about 3 laps. I thought we had it made easy, and then we'd kind of discussed it a little bit, me and some of the guys on TeamSpeak, and I really didn't give it a thought, and then I checked right before the end, and I was 3 to the good, so it was close, but it shouldn't have been an issue.
The strong finish for you guys here tonight shows that you guys have a good race car. That is, when it comes to when the green flag comes out and they're on 4th. And I know that you guys would like to do some work on said qualifying, but it has to feel good that you guys are able to get the job done out there on the racetrack. We move forward out to the next race on the year. It's very different than what we've seen so far. We head to an intermediate track. There'll be plenty of those. Texas is in 7 days' time. Is that another track that you guys can do something like this at?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the theme for me in this year. Trucks and the Xfinity. I just, I'm kind of a mid-packer qualifier, but when the race gets going and if we get some long green flag runs, I can, with a little bit of luck, I can usually get up and run up front no problem. So, hey, I ran good at Texas last time we ran there, so I'm looking forward to it, and I love racing with these big fields. It takes a whole different mindset to get to the finish, and I'm racing for points, so I'm glad to hear that some of those guys that ran up front didn't perform really well like me last week, so hopefully that'll scramble up the points really good.
Yeah, they're in the same boat as you guys, trying to dig your way out of a little bit of a hole. It was a good, solid result for you guys tonight, Mikey, to put you on the right track because still 8 races to go. Plenty of time to continue to chip away at it. But before we let you take off, anybody that you want to give a call to while we got you?
Yep, Kaziski Auto Parts again and I-80 Speedway, Super Late Model Racing Series, and Little Sunset Speedway are on with me again for this series. They backed me for Full Throttle Cup and this series, so I'm really glad that they were able to get that on the car and have the same paint job and keep some continuity. Turn 1 heroes, and it's just me and Kevin Linden running this series, and then Scott Simley and Bobby Terrell hang out with us too, and we have a good time racing. Thanks to you guys, as always, in LSR. It's a great time. Look forward to the next race.
This one was fun to take in there late, Mike. Thanks for sticking around and chatting. Congratulations and best of luck. We'll see you in Texas.
Thanks, guys.
That's a look at your top runners here tonight from the Auto Club Speedway. David Comstock, EJ O'Rourke, and Mike Kelly, the guys who come home inside of the top 3. And talking about where they finished last week at Daytona, doing a note as I was talking there with Mike. So David Comstock, who wins tonight, finished 24th in Daytona. EJ O'Rourke, who finished 2nd tonight, finished 22nd in Daytona. And Mike Kelly, who finished 3rd tonight, finished 26th in Daytona, Chris. So all of those guys had a rough go at it when we could go through the ringer, and they're trying to pick back up. That's how much of a wild card Daytona is the top 3 cars tonight were outside of the top 20 1 week ago. So they've got a ways to go before they can get back to the top of the ladder, but it should be fun watching how these guys navigate the intermediate tracks, which take up the next couple of races on the calendar, beginning with Texas next week.
Yeah, definitely. It just shows how much things can change in just 1 week's time, Evan. All these drivers finishing in the back of the field, now finishing up towards the front. It just shows how much it can change in one little week. So going on to Texas is going to be another one of those fast tracks. Not as fast as, Auto Club or Daytona, but still one of those fast class tracks, a momentum-based track. So it's going to be interesting to see how drivers treat that, and I cannot wait for next Monday to see them battle it out in the Lone Star State.
We hope that you join us in 1 week's time for more RSR Icebreaker Winter Series action. If you want to find us back here on iRacing Live before then, we'll be on 2 more times over the course of the next few days. This Thursday, December the 8th, with coverage starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We've got Upstate Racing League action, and then this Saturday, United Sim Racing Truck Series is back at it. That coverage begins at 10 o'clock Eastern. If you want to take a look at our full and extended broadcast schedule, you can find that on our website at www.livesimracing.com. And you could also stay up to date with us by the minute on social media. Follow us on Twitter at LSRTV. You could also give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/live sim racing TV. Until next time, that wraps things up here tonight from Fontana, California. On behalf of the entire team at LSRTV LLC and the folks behind the scenes, for myself, Evan Pasoko, for Chris Murdoch, and our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, I want to congratulate David Comstock for his win here tonight, and thank all of you for tuning in. We will see you in 1 week's time for the 3rd race of this 2016-2017 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series Championship from the Texas Motor Speedway, right here on LSR TV at iRacing Live. Until then, good night.